This piece is called It's Getting Dark, Home Time, and it depicts a nuclear family situation engaging in a ritualistic family-based activity that we're all familiar with if we come from or spend time with a larger family. It really does not only bring together all the underlying themes of the show, but also brings together a very interesting direction that the artist is taking in his technical and formal style. We're seeing human features being pared down to a more abstract and impressionist or expressionist look. As well, we're seeing the artist employ techniques that a lot of the abstract and New York School artists were employing, not only with color, but with moving and arranging the paint on the 2D plane. So we decided that this piece was an all-encompassing work that was very suitable for our title head. The next piece we see here is called Waiting for the Next Post. Human figure in anticipatory pose. The knee treatments are quite striking, and we're introduced to the ever-occurring houseplant, be it a bird of paradise or some sort of succulent that cleans the air. It's definitely a metaphor for companionship and a notable responsibility to enjoy life and keep it going. There's a continuation to the next painting, which would indicate that the artist is working on a lot of the pieces at the same time, in symphony with each other. Therefore, they share a lot of similar details and a very similar color palette, which is beautiful. So it anchors a piece called The Confidence of Having a White Couch. And we have a couple in a domestic situation, most likely watching TV that's off screen in this tableau. But it's definitely a very comfortable and familiar scene that again encapsulates the overarching metaphor of the show being the home, indoors and domestic, be it forced or comfortable. Below that is a piece produced prior to this year. Most of the pieces in the show are produced in 2021, with the exception of a few. This one is called the St. Vincent Rum Shop. So this is another depiction of home for the artist whose roots are in St. Vincent, Montreal, and Toronto. And so St. Vincent plays a big part in this show as well. This being a very traditional looking building in the Caribbean, and something very close to the artist's heart, a production very close to the artist's heart. As we continue on the west-facing wall, we have an untitled piece loosely called the Braid Up. For those who know about the Braid Up, this is a champion situation, matriarchal situation, a proper braid up. A lot of these scenes seem to occur on a Saturday evening or a Sunday, where we're most comfortable and most at home, most of the time at home. We have a reoccurring bird of paradise plant with an absolutely beautiful technique of capturing the flora. And we have moved towards abstraction in the depiction of the face, similar to a wood carving, which is what a lot of the abstract expressionists and impressionists were influenced by when it came to native art. That's for another day. But we're again seeing another reoccurrence of this beautiful olive and more depictions of the style of paint and moving the paint around with an edge the tool and really creating a lot of drama and important information through these new techniques. This piece would be a cottage seam on a lake. And it's depicting a family looking very, well, at least posed and figuratively looking somewhat stoic, happy, and towards the future in a positive way, lit by a campfire. Again, you're seeing a lot of techniques used by abstract artists employed in a somewhat figurative painting, something that the artist is further developing and exploring in his practice. For the first time in a little while, we're seeing fire imagery, which does reoccur throughout this show. And these pigments are just absolutely beautiful. You're seeing a lot of transition into abstraction with the paring down of the faces and the repetition of the knees, showing a good anchoring of each figure in a seated position for the majority of these paintings. So now we're seeing a parallel of two histories, two different family scenes, this being the second one. We're seeing a paring down to abstraction once again in the faces, something that I find absolutely beautiful. We're seeing excellent treatment of knees and seated positions, but we're seeing a family dynamic that differs from the one that I was speaking of previously, where there's a complete connection of the family unit, all engaged with each other. And I find this to be the standout painting of the show and my favorite. The plants bring you back to the Caribbean a little bit, and as does this piece in this chair. So this chair is something that the artist is humbled by, and it's been a part of his life for a long time. Acts as a really wonderful metaphor for childhood. And above it hangs a picture of his old home in St. Vincent, Carroll Gardens. And Cave Garden. Sorry, Carroll Garden is Brooklyn. And you're seeing a wonderful depiction of a house that us Caribbean folk are familiar with back home. And the night scene allows you to, in your imagination, hear the crickets and frogs and other vibrant nightlife sounds of the Caribbean. So it acts as a bit of a magical piece, and we decided to give it a bit of a magical installation. So again, these paintings were all made in symphony, with the exception of a few, where different techniques were applied and a different type of workmanship put into it. These pieces are called Zoomcast, and they depict two screens, basically the conversation setting that we're all accustomed to now as we're communicating with our people via screen most of the time and via split screen. So this would be the merging of the two screens, showing us the conversation. And with the almost lucky symbiosis, we're getting full figures, which then start to look like masks because of how unorthodox and irregular they are together. And that in itself, I think, is the beauty of this series. This piece is called Holding Me, Holding You. And it definitely shows a warm relationship. You don't have to know exactly to what extent that relationship is, but you definitely see warmth and a very beautiful unity between the two figures. This interior piece takes on an angle of viewer being invited in to an intimate domestic situation. It's called I Love Sky. Sky is a child of a very close friend to the artist and a very close friend of the artist as well. Young close friend of the artist as well. And this would be Sky going to school. This was Sky's daily routine, which was a daily routine for a lot of children attending school last year and the year before during the lockdown. This piece, which gives me the impression of the houses built in 1912 in downtown Toronto, is called Remember That Day We Went for a Walk and We Saw That House. And I love that this is a cluster of houses and potential domestic situations, and is extremely recognizable, although you can't pinpoint where it is. So it garners some really interesting attention and shows beauty in the mix of personal places and their personal touch to their spots. And therefore, a nice generation of color mixing. I enjoy this painting because it speaks on a lot of levels without too much figurative action, but more jogging of the memory. This series of beautiful small homes is taken from a larger series that was previously displayed at the Royal Ontario Museum in a group show of commissioned artists called The ROM is Home. This took place in 2010, and these wall-hanging or freestanding objects are interpreted from drawings and paintings by Elicser. A lot of them bring you back to the Caribbean aesthetic and tin roof aesthetic as well. Simple, effective, and detailed to match the artist's style of painting and illustrating. Well, I wanted to give a big thanks to Canvas Invaders for featuring us in their series, and I wanted to thank Toronto as well for showing so much support and outpouring of love when it came to this show and when it's come to the gallery, continuing to operate comfortably and produce wonderful shows such as this one. This show officially wraps on the end of Tuesday the 9th, the beginning of Wednesday the 10th, so Tuesday the 9th will be the last day to see it in person. But it will continue to exist on our website, therungallery.com, and look out for more wonderful shows to come very soon.